If you've been trying to create round, hard surface models in Maya using a sphere like this, I'm here to tell you that you've probably been doing it all wrong. I'm going to show you a great workflow to create round, hard surface models in Maya using a little known deformer and some bonus tips. All that in my hard surface modeling tutorial coming up. What's going on, you 3D modeling beasts? This is jlmussi, and today we are talking about creating a spherical hard surface model within Maya. And I think the main problem lies with most of us, including myself when I started, is that we seek to create a spherical hard surface model, and obviously the primitive of choice is going to be a sphere. The problem with that sphere is that it has those nasty poles in there, and it really routes our geometry towards those poles, and it's really not an ideal as far as the topology goes. So with the workflow that I pretty much came up with is using a cube, and we get the nice spread out geometry of the cube, and then we could use one of my favorite deformers, which is called a shrink wrap deformer, to actually get the shape, right? So we're gonna take the nice spread out topology of the cube, and that way we can go ahead and use the deformer and project that shape, a spherical shape, onto that cube. So we really get the best of both worlds. Also, make sure to download my hard surface modeling cheat sheets, which is a perfect companion to my videos. It's a short PDF guide that will help you on your hard surface modeling journey within Maya. The great thing about the guide is that it has video explanations, so that link within the PDF document will take you to bookmark parts of my video shall you need more explanation on that topic. And you can get the free guide by clicking the link down below, and I will also throw it up here on the YouTube card. So we're gonna go ahead and begin with a cube here. So I'll go to create, Polygon primitives, and then I'll go to a cube right here. And we can go to the settings here for the polycube. And I'm gonna set all these to 2. So I do want this a little bit bigger, that initial size. I also want a split right down the middle. So I'll set all those to 2. And then from here, what I wanna do is I'm gonna have some cylindrical shapes coming out of this, so I need a little bit more divisions. So what I'm gonna do is just jump over here to a side view, select these guys here. I'll go to mesh, and then I'll go to triangulate. Now we have this triangulated pattern, right? So essentially what we wanna do is start out with an X pattern. So I'll switch over to edge mode, and then I'll take the ones that are basically not creating the X, and I'll select those guys. So that looks pretty good. And then what I can do from this point is I can go to edit mesh, and then we will go to flip triangle edge, right? So you see that it flipped that edge, and now we have this nice X pattern on here. So before I do anything else, I'll go to show, and I'll just hide the grid here. It's kind of in the way. And now I'm just going to go ahead and select these verts right here in the middle. And make sure nothing else is selected but those middle verts. And then I'll go to edit mesh, and I'll go to bevel. Since we bevel that one vert, we're actually going to get something that looks like this end gun here, but that's what we want. I'll go back to face, I'll go to select, and then I'll go to similar. It's going to select the rest of the faces here. Then I will shift right click, and then I will go to Circularize components. And with the Circularize option, I'm going to play with the radial offset here to something like this. I'll hit delete, and then once that's deleted, I'll go to object mode. I'll go to mesh. I'll apply a level 1 smooth right here. And now it's time to actually deform this onto a spherical shape, right? So obviously we're gonna need a sphere. So we'll go to create, we'll go to Polygon primitives, and we'll select sphere. Now we want the sphere to be just slightly smaller or the cube slightly bigger. It really doesn't matter. I'm just gonna take this sphere here, and then just scale it down a little bit, right? And I'll do it a little bit more, go into wireframe, make sure there's no clipping going on. So I'll go back to object mode here. I'll select the cube first. I'll shift click the sphere. I'll go to deform, and then I'll go to shrink wrap options. You can go ahead and reset the tool if you want. So you see that it's set toward inner object, and that's actually what we want. So I'll select that, I'll hit create. And now we see that we basically projected this shape, right? This round shape onto that cube. So from this point, what we can do is, remember, anytime that you have a deformer and you don't delete the history, if you delete that influence object, it's just gonna pop back to its previous shape. So what we're gonna do here is just select both objects, edit, delete by type, history, we'll clear that out. Now we should be able to delete the sphere and still keep our shape, right? And what I'm gonna do at this point is I'll right click, I'll assign a existing material. So this is just a new blend that I created. And then I'll go ahead and smooth this. I'll go to 3 mode. I'll take off wireframe on shaded. So we do have a little bit of a pinching here. And that's probably because of these extra edges here, right? So what we could do is just take these, and then we can take these and delete. And I'm not going to worry about these, and you'll see why in a second. So the first thing that we want to do is we're going to switch things up a little bit. So we're going to work on this panel, right? And we're going to give it some unique detail. And then we're going to work on this panel, give it some unique detail as well. So in this one, we'll leave as is. And then these other two are just going to get mirrored over, right? So what I can do here is I'll go to edge, select this edge like this. So basically, all the areas that I want to split up, I'm going to select the edges. So from here, I can shift right click, and then I can go to detach, right? So now you see that we have kind of this thicker edge here. That means it's a border edge. And detaching, what it's going to do, it's going to peel off those components, right? So they're no longer attached. So the cool thing about this is that if we do a mesh and a separate, now these are different components. These right here, we're going to delete. And yeah, so we'll just basically work on these. So what we could do here is, since the pivot's still at the middle, which is pretty much what we want, we can shift right click. We can go to mirror, options. We can set up a instance. We'll go ahead and mirror that one. And then we'll do the same thing here. Shift, right click, mirror, options. This one's going to be in the Z, and it's still going to be an instance, right? And same thing as this one. Shift, right click, mirror, and this is going to be in the Y. All right. So we'll turn on wireframe on shaded back on. And the cool thing about this is that, you know, whatever we do here, it's going to get projected onto the corresponding sides and so on with the other two pieces. All right, so I'm going to undo that, and let's go ahead, and I'm pretty much just freestyling this. So I'm going to take this guy here and just push this out. So what I like to do, let me go a little bit slower here, right? What I like to do is sometimes I like to extrude and then just go back to my move tool and just push out, right? So once you have that extruded, as long as you don't deselect anything, you can just go back to a transform, and it works pretty much on the fly. So I like to use the transforms in conjunction with the extrude operation. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give this a little bit of a lip. And what we could do here is extrude this back in, play with the offset here, and the thickness. Right, so something like this. And then I'm gonna go ahead and take this guy here and just scale it, make sure it's flat. And same thing here. See that we have a little bit of a curvature, so we could actually just flatten that out real quick. And then and I'm flattening out by basically scaling towards that axis, which looks like it's the X in this case, right? So I'll go ahead and extrude inward, hit W, and I'm just pushing in. And then what I can do here is just create a quick cap. So I'll go ahead and extrude one time, right? And if we smooth this out, you see that we have the other edge. And then from here, we can go ahead and do a merge collapse. So I'm doing shift right click. So from here, we could do shift right click, merge collapse, merge to center. So we'll cap that out. And we could do something similar here. But here I'm gonna mix up the pattern a little bit. So I'm gonna take this guy here. I'll extrude, I'll just get the scale tool. Before I do that, I'm gonna take this guy here and just kind of flatten it out. And then I'll extrude, scale inward like this, right? And then hit W again. So I did another extrude, I hit W, I'll go in like this, and then I will extrude. And we have another edge right here. This edge right here is peeling off. And 3 mode is actually a good way of just, sometimes we hit extrude, but we forget what we did. So sometimes just hitting 3 will actually expose those edges that are on top of each other, right? So now that we have that edge, that extra edge, we could do shift right click, merge to center, and we'll cap that out. So we're looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and reinforce these guys here. So I'll take all the edges that need to be hardened, and then I'll do a edit mesh, bevel, and then I'll give that guy 3 divisions and probably taper down the fraction. If you feel like these values are jumping around a lot, what you can do is hold down Control, and you'll get more gradual control. And if you actually need more control than that, you could do Control Shift, and you'll get even more incremental values, right? So that looks pretty good. And I'll go ahead and repeat that for this part as well. And so I'll do another bevel. I have the bevel key shortcutted, so there's no need to just keep showing you that command. So there we go. We got bevels, and now this should work like we want. And obviously this is updating to the other size since we created an instance. So that looks good, and this looks good, right? This is what I mentioned about some bonus tips. So we're gonna create some panel detail here with a plane, and it's a nice way of just getting some quick detail, especially on these cylindrical caps. It really is just gonna add a little bit of spice to our hard surface model. So we'll go to create, Polygon primitive, and we'll create a plane, and we'll go to the options, and make sure it's a 2x2, so we like how that looks. We'll go ahead and just move it off to the side here, and we'll work on this side view here. And I'm not worried about this not fitting yet. We'll worry about that in a second, but I do want to go ahead and create that panel detail. So what I can do from this point is I only need to work on half of this. So I'll just delete half and just kind of focus on this area. And what I can do is I'll go back to object mode, and I'll just shrink this just a little bit. So right about there, that's going to work fine. And then what I can do here is I'll take my multi-cut, and with the multi-cut tool, if you do Control Shift and middle mouse click, right, we get a edge right in the middle. So there's no guesswork needed. If you just hold down Control and then middle mouse click instead of left clicking, it'll drop that edge right in between. So now we have this. What I want to do from this point as well is drop another one here. And then I'll move this guy like this guy like this right here. And I'm going to move this guy something like this. All right. So what I can do is move this guy up a little bit and just play around and get the angle that I want. And once I have it, I could just get the scale tool, just scale these guys flat. And then from here, what I'm going to do is we could take this edge here and just scale it. So sometimes I just like things to be nice and straight before I do anything else. So I basically want a panel line from here, here, and here. So I'll go ahead and get my bevel tool. So I'll bevel those edges, right? And then I'll give it a small thickness here, right? So what I'll do here is I'll just select these faces and I will extrude. And what I'm going to do is just push this guy back a little bit. And what I also like to do is drop 3 divisions. And that's going to give me those holding edges. I could just go in there and drop edge loops, but why not just do it with the extrude, since it's a little bit easier, especially if you have to zoom in those small areas. And then we could just take those edges there and those edges here as well, and we could just get rid of them. I'm sorry, those faces. So we'll get rid of them, and then we'll see how these guys deform. So we'll hit 3 mode, and you see that we're losing a lot of those hard edges. So what I'll do is I'll go to my multi-cut, and I'll start dropping some edges. So here you see that the multi-cut likes to average things out for holding edges. And if I want to be straight off with another edge, I'll actually go to the insert edge loop tool instead of the multi-cut edge loop function. So mesh tools, insert edge loop tool. So we'll do that. Now you see that we have a nice straight edge. So I'll go ahead and drop some edges there, an edge there, an edge there, edge there, edge there. Let's see how we look. So that looks pretty good, right? This is actually being held up pretty well. So we're pretty much done with the modeling. And the cool thing about this is that, you know, it's on a flat surface, so we don't really have to worry that much about pinching. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and mirror this bad boy over. So make sure that my pivot is where it needs to be. So I'll hit D to enable pivot edit mode, and then V to just snap to a vert right there on the edge. Shift right click, and then we'll go to mirror options, and it looks like we're working in the Z mirror, and there we go. And then now we can just go ahead and take this and move this bad boy back like so. And we could shape it, so if we really needed to. In this case, we don't, but you could just shape it. You could either Boolean the shape, or you could just get a cylindrical cap and kind of snap these verts right here. But for the purpose of this, you get the point. It's not really needed, right? To really just round out that shape. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this guy here. I'll do Control D, and then to duplicate it, right? Move it, rotate it. I'll hold down J to just snap to 15-degree increments. And that looks pretty good. What I can do from this point is go to my Move tool, hold down, hit D, hold down V to just vert snap right here. And then what we could do is vert snap again right there. So we're nice and squared away with that one vert, right? And let's see something that looks kind of cool. So what I'll do here is actually flip this guy just to change the pattern a little bit. And that's a cool thing about, you know, these little hard surface designs that, you know, with just a little bit of rotation and some mirroring, you could actually get a pretty different shape, right? So for here, what I think I'm gonna do is, I don't want to scale it because I'll skew kind of that evenness of that panel line. So I'll take this guy here, and then we can go ahead and just move it up, something like that, right? So we want to cut into that cylindrical cap, and then we could do the same thing here. We could do half and then delete and mirror, but I'm just going to do this by hand. Don't have to be super precise in this case, right? So now this is hidden. So let's just take it, let's take the object, just make sure it's coming through here like so. So from this point, I'm just going to go ahead and look at this edge here, select that range. And to select the range, you could just select one edge, hold down Shift, double click, and it'll select that range, right? If you just double click on here, just select the whole border edge. You don't want that. So select one edge, hold down Shift, double click, and you'll select a range. I'm going to go ahead and push this guy up like this, and that looks pretty good. So I'll hit D, V, right, to just move that pivot. Hit W again, Shift right click, and then I'll do a mirror in the X. You see that I'm getting some wonky issues with the mirroring, and that's because we have transforms, right? So anytime that you mirror, you want to make sure that these are cleared, right? Because we flipped this guy, so the mirroring is going to get a little bit out of line unless we freeze these transforms. So we'll go to Modify, Freeze Transformations, and now you see that all that's zeroed out. So this should work properly since we should be mirroring right here in the X. So we'll Shift right click, mirror, mirror, X, and there we go, right? So that's a clean mirror. So it's time to make one mesh out of this. There's two options you can go about it. You can basically select the instance and convert it to a polygon mesh, or you could just delete and mirror over. I'll show you both ways so you know basically how to do them. So this guy was an instance. So we can go to Modify and then Convert, and we can go to Instance to Object. And now you see that it's no longer going to go ahead and update, right? So we kill that connection. This one still has the connection, so you'll see that it updates. And the other option is you just take this guy and you mirror it. So before I combine and mirror these guys, what I'll do is just take these faces here and delete them. And if you're tight on a polygon count, I suggest doing that. And if you're not, then it's not a big deal. So now I can go ahead and take both of these guys. I'll go to Mesh and I'll go to Combine. And now that's one mesh. So now what I can do is hold down D, V to move that pivot, and we'll basically snap it to this vert right here. Hit W again, Shift right click, and then I'll go to Mirror, and this should be a mirror on the Z as a copy. And there we go. And then I'm actually going to do the same exact thing there. I did show you how to basically kill that instance if you need it. So I'll delete that. And then we'll go ahead and combine these. I have that shortcutted. So, and then I'll hit D again, V to vert snap right here. W, Shift right click, and then we'll go to Mirror. Mirror that over this way, and what I need to do is just delete this guy first, and then we can mirror this guy in the X, mirror, there we go. And then this last guy here, since there's not any changes that we did, we can just go ahead and do Modify, and then we can convert. So all these should be polygon meshes. Looks good. So I'll take all these and then I'll go ahead and combine them one last time. I'll go into vertice mode, and then I'll go to mesh, and then I will go to merge. And with these guys, especially when you got bevels with small tolerances, what you want to make sure you're doing is make sure that you are on a very low merge threshold, and you want to check those tight bevels there, make sure they're not getting pinched. We want to go ahead and just select this guy. We'll hit 3 mode, and looks pretty good. The last thing that we could do is to maybe add a little bit more pop, is go in here, and we could go ahead and select these guys. Select these guys here, and then we can do a extrude, and vary slightly. So you see that's getting pretty far out. So I'll hold down Control Shift, just give it a low value, and then we'll go 3 divisions on the we'll go 3 on the divisions. Now we should have another nice little panel line. And this guy here, obviously, since we did hit 3, it is shrinking a little bit. So what we could do in this case is just select this guy here, double click, and just kind of scale it in a little bit. And I'll actually do this with both. And I'll use this guy here. That way we're not scaling here and just pinching them together, right? What we could do is just use this guy, and then if we use this guy, we won't basically scale in the Z. We'll leave the Z alone, and that way we're not getting that offset that we probably don't want, right? So we'll just pinch this down just a little bit, just to clear it, and yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks, and please let me know on the comments down below your favorite deformers within Maya. Share it with another 3D artist that you think might find value, and if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so, as I do hard surface tutorials like this all the time. Until we meet again, folks, I will catch you next time.